Welcome to Drunk Bible Study. This show's mission is to read every single word of the greatest story ever told. A warning to our listeners, the hosts of this show are sinners, but they're doing their best. There will be drinking and there may be some swears. They did say they'd try to keep it clean, but I wouldn't put my money on it.
I'm Emily, and this is Drunk Bible Study, where my good friends Dedeker and Jace teach me, a born and raised atheist, all about the Bible. Here we are, more John. I just am reflecting on John a bit and the fact that it's our final gospel, and here we are finally doing this.
How are you feeling about that?
I don't know. I mean, I think I talked about it recently again, just that we have taken so long to even get to this point, to get to the point of the Gospels. And now the Gospels themselves are almost done.
Passing us by.
Which is incredible. Yeah, I know. It's really fascinating, but it's been a journey. I have read the same thing a lot and then also not the same thing, like conflicting stories. So that's interesting.
Well, so interesting to get your opinion on this, that I think to many evangelical Christians in particular, maybe Christians in general, the Gospels are basically like the most important books of the Bible.
Okay.
So much so
that
at least once a year at my high school, the Gideons, those very same Gideons that put a Bible in your hotel room, at least once a year, the Gideons would hand out copies of just the Gospels to everybody.
Oh, really?
At my high school. Yes. I think the Gospels maybe with Acts sometimes, or sometimes just the Gospels.
Wait, they would come?
Yeah. Usually it was always weird because there's suddenly these middle-aged men dressed in suits that you don't recognize handing out little copies of the Gospels around.
Wow.
Because I guess it's, something that I've always said is my one of many critiques of Christianity is this idea of like, oh, you can just hand the Bible to somebody and that's all they really need to read. They can, we just hand it over and that's okay. And so then even more so condensing down to, well, really though, we can just give them the Gospels. That's the really important part. And I wonder how you feel about that, Emily.
I think if you only give people the Gospels, it leaves out so much of the rest of the Bible that is very important to get the full scope of what it is that you're looking at. Because I think that if you don't have an understanding of the Old Testament, then a lot of the things that are said in the New Testament are not going to have as much weight behind them. And especially...
Yeah, like a lot of the stuff about the laws wouldn't make any sense. You'd be like, what? Why?
Well, sure.
Yeah.
But also just the context for people like Joseph and Moses and all of these people that were kind of promised beforehand, or that in essence were spoken of like they could have been a prophet, or they could have been the chosen one, the prince who was promised. That's a Game of Thrones reference, but kind of the same sort of thing.
Okay.
But that they speak about that a bit, and that if you don't have an understanding of what all of that is about, then you might be a little lost. I understand where they're coming from, but I don't know. But it just seems very Christian also to do that and to kind of like omit just so much history, really, that the Old Testament is a part of.
Oh, see, I mean, okay, you're not wrong about Christians omitting things sometimes or kind of skipping over or cherry picking or things like that. But I feel like the more Christian part of it is assuming that their text has an obvious internal coherence, even to someone who's not at all used to it.
Well, that
when
definitely
that's not really
does
the
not.
case.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, that a lot of the understanding or like the wisdom they think it has is built on top of a lot of pre-existing stuff they've been taught about how to interpret it, about who Jesus is.
That's very true.
All of this. And to be honest, even without growing up with that teaching, Emily, you've still come in with a lot of that like, oh, but he's this.
Sure.
And then being surprised by certain things where it's like, how do you know he's that? Just because people have said it. And like so much of the way Jesus is always described as like so meek and mild.
And he's not.
In modern day portrayal, he's not.
Yeah.
Most of the time, he's really not.
He's covered in
Every
little
now and then
lammies.
he's got,
Yeah.
By the way, just a quick update on what's been going down in the Discord is I think last week a lot of people were really trying to get AI to generate images of Lil Nas just like covered in lambs.
Oh my God.
Swathed in lambs, I believe, were the prompts that people were creating.
Amazing.
And some were just straight up refused, but we got some good candidates.
Oh, good.
So if you want to go check those out, go to drunkbiblestudy.discord.com.
Love that.
No, discord.drunkbiblestudy.com
that one.
Is the one you
go
mean.
to that one.
Amazing. Yeah, no, I agree with both of you. I think that unfortunately, or fortunately, no, probably unfortunately, because it would be amazing to go into the Bible completely without having any knowledge at all. And I'm pretty close to that, but I still clearly have some idea of what and who Jesus is. And yes, I have been surprised over and over again at the fact that he is not that meek or mild. And he's a lot more complex of a character than I think people even realize. And
for sure,
they don't always allow. Yeah, they don't always allow for that complexity in their interpretation. And so if somebody were just handed the Gospels, I think that and had no idea about who this person was beforehand, then maybe they could build their own idea about it just internally. And then...
But also, does that person exist?
Probably not.
Does that person without any influence yet exist?
Yeah,
in the
unless they
world?
like totally live off the grid and have no religion in their life at all, which probably that person does exist, but I don't know them. So... I have a rock o'clock for all y'all.
Wow.
Oh,
it's been so
my
long.
goodness.
Yeah.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Rock o'clock.
So, okay, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, I'm assuming many of you know that he was a WWE wrestler, and that's kind of how he got his start. Being a wrestler, and then there's like a wrestler to actor pipeline, I think, that happens sometimes. Sure. It happened with John Cena.
Right, yeah.
And Andre the Giant,
Very
I guess?
rarely goes the opposite way.
Yeah, that
Hulk
would be
Hogan.
weird. Hulk Hogan,
Like,
okay.
Yeah, so many.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't realize this, but my partner told me this, that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson went recently back to WWE because they were having like WrestleMania 40 or something. I don't know what that is, but it's a big deal. And so he went back. He was paid $9 million to do this appearance, like this one night appearance. And
then, $9 million in stock. It looks like.
in stock. Okay.
Yeah.
Boy, there you go.
Boy.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so he did this one night appearance. He's 50 years old, which is crazy.
Wow.
And he, I guess, won, quote unquote, whatever that means.
Sure. They choreographed it so he'd win. Yeah.
I mean, how could you not?
Exactly.
You can't bring back The Rock and have somebody hand a candy ass to him. He only hands out candy asses to other people.
Exactly.
Right. I'd say more like if you're The Rock, you don't sign a deal to lose.
Right.
You're like, no.
That's
part of my
very
contract
true.
is I win.
Yeah. But I think that he won the whole thing or something. Like it was even bigger. It was a really big deal that he won something
he won all
very
of
large.
WrestleMania.
Yeah, something like that maybe. I could be very wrong, but anyways, there he was. He was a big deal very recently.
That's cool.
In wrestling again. Yeah.
The coverage that I'm looking at is also pointing out the fact that he's committed to a live action remake of Moana.
Yeah. Yes, I have seen that. I think.
Okay. All right. They do love doing their live action remakes these days.
Yeah.
So I guess that makes sense.
I think Zendaya is going to be Moana, and he's going to reprise his role as Maui. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Wow.
Of course.
Yeah. So love that.
That's pretty cool. That would have been pretty exciting.
Yeah.
See The Rock as a wrestle boy once again.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
A genuine wrestle boy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That was my rock o'clock.
Okay, real quick, before we get started, what are we drinking?
Yes, indeed. I mean, I still don't have anything to mix a cocktail with.
We haven't bought you that mixer
dang
set
it.
yet. Crap. Okay.
That was my subtle way of being
Google,
like, I still...
remind me to buy Emily a mixing set at 9 p.m. tonight.
That's so sweet. It's all good.
I'm going to be really confused when that goes off at 9 p.m. tonight. Be like, what?
You're going to be like, what? What?
Do you have any requests of what you would like to go into a cocktail
gosh.
set?
Well, yeah, so I think it's called a Boston shaker as opposed to a martini shaker. A Boston shaker are 2 like cups.
The 2 jiggies? Okay,
correct.
sure.
Instead of the martini as the thing on the top.
Yeah.
Just because it perfectly fits with a pint glass. That's the reason behind it. It is more of like a bartending standard, which I prefer because I'm used to restaurant quality.
Right.
And if you could get something maybe with the tool that, this comes in a lot of bar sets, but the tool that will make a twist.
Okay.
Sure,
Love that.
The little diggy scrapey pulley.
Yeah.
Scrapey.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The diggy scrapey pulley.
And this is like pie in the sky. And if you can't find this, no worries. But some of them do come with little martini, or what are they? The little like jagged pointies that you can put some.
Jagged little pills?
Yeah, jagged little pills. Like what are they called? They're not the stirrers, but it is like a pointy.
Pick? Like a toothpick?
Yes, like a pick.
Like what you put the olive on?
Correct. Yes.
The pointy,
yes. Some of them come with the pointies.
But like a metal pointy, I'm assuming?
Yeah, some of them come with metal ones so that, they're not something that you just dispose of afterwards, but you can reuse them over and over.
Okay, all right.
But that may be a big ask because I haven't found a lot that have that. But yeah, anyways, that's it. Those are my requests.
Well, how about this?
And a jigger, please. Clearly.
Just in a cursory Google, how about this $450 set from Mark and Graham?
Solid gold.
Yeah, Good Lord. Wait,
Perfect.
that even exists?
It's made out of acacia wood.
Good Lord.
No.
Okay.
It does look really cool.
I'm sure it does, but you certainly do not need to get that for me, my lord. That's kind of ridiculous. Oh, but I will look at it.
We'll go search our couch cushions and we'll see.
Okay, but what are you drinking?
Oh, yeah. I got this Flying Embers Pixie Tangerine Simcoe. It's just a hard kombucha. It tastes very lovely. I could get this at Trader Joe's because it's under 10%.
Oh.
Yeah. So you can get anything,
right.
I think, under 10% at a grocery store, but you can't get wine because that's usually 14 or 15.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the time when Emily gets really into like, fortified wines? No, maybe those would be over that, but like double IPAs and like all the things that are like hovering around that 9% mark.
Yeah, exactly. Good Lord, this is beautiful, but they think very highly of themselves that this is $450.
Yeah.
Well, acacia wood.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
You're taking something away from the drafts, and they're very proud of their acacia wood.
Goodness. Yeah, that's the only reason why it's that expensive, because of the wood, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm just having a lovely Pinot Noir.
Oh.
From a local winery in the Willamette Valley. Yes.
Wow.
Mine's not that exciting. I'm having this Crux fermentation project. I mean, I like Crux because it's like a cross kind of, I guess, and maybe that's relevant, but it's not very good. I just have it in the fridge and I'm trying to finish it.
Okay.
So I don't have anything exciting to say about it.
That's okay.
It's like an IPA that wants to be drunk, and that's not what I'm here for. I want it to punch me in the mouth as I'm trying to drink. I want it to fight. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you like very intense IPAs.
So this is it's like, sure, drink me. And I'm not into it.
No, you don't like drinkable beers, which is funny.
No, way too drinkable.
Way too drinkable.
Can't stand it.
That's fine.
Well,
it's time.
Alrighty.
It is now the time for us. We're going to continue on with the most exciting of Gospels, mostly because it's new and different. And that is, of course, John. We're going to be reading 2 chapters today, John 7 and 8. As we get started, we want to remind everyone to read responsibly and drink responsibly.
You can drink along with us, or you can listen to us while you're in the car.
But please do not do both at the same time.
And with that, it is time for John chapter 7.
Dedeker, you were having a moment there.
I know. I had to compensate for Jace, who was not having a moment at all.
I know. Yeah, you yelled at me once because you were like, "You're not dancing enough." And then what the hell was that?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. You got me.
It's fine. Okay.
John chapter 7. After these things.
Which things?
What were these things? He talked to them about some stuff.
Well, he really went off on a long rant last time.
He was going on a tangent.
Right.
Uh-huh.
He had a whole thing about not going for food that's not the food that'll make you live forever.
Yeah.
You got to eat me, my flesh and drink my blood. Oh, right. We ended on the vampire thing.
Yeah.
Where he was like really leaning into the vampire stuff.
And
okay.
And then Annalisa, one of our lovely patrons, said that there is a movie, Dracula 2000, is all about Judas is the first vampire, which is really interesting.
What a twist.
I know, that is a twist.
Yeah.
Apparently it was very bad.
Right.
Dracula 2000, but that is an interesting take on the whole story, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. So instead of Cain, it's Judas. Okay. Interesting.
Who's a lot, Cain is a lot older than Judas, though.
For sure.
Like way older. Yeah. All right.
Like way older. Like basically as much older as it's possible to be, almost, according to the Bible at least.
Because he's like one of the first men. Was he like, were Cain and Abel Adam and Eve's kids?
Yes.
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 Okay, good. I got that right.
So that's what I mean. Like almost as old as you can possibly be.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay. So after these things, Jesus was walking in Galilee, for he wouldn't walk in Judea because the Jews sought to kill him.
Again.
Because they're like a vampire. Get the stakes.
I mean, that would make sense. That would make sense. Like, I would understand that.
Now, the feast of the Jews, the feast of booths, was at hand. Oh, yeah. We love our booth feasts.
Yeah. Yeah.
His brothers, therefore...
Wait.
Yes?
Yeah, remember the
Sukkah.
Sukkah.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Do they go... Oh, yeah. They go around to different booths and then get like different like foods?
No, that's a Japanese matsuri.
Damn it.
You go around to different stalls and get foods. No, this is where you go and you live in a little hut, a little booth thing for a month. Oh, wait. I mean a day, a night.
For a month?
For a little while.
I actually don't know how long you're in there. No, like a day. Like a day. Maybe even just an hour or so. I'm not sure.
Okay. Why is it called the Feast of Booths?
Because it's like a festival.
Then do you have a feast afterwards?
Well, they probably have a feast too. Then you go feast, yeah. Or maybe you feast first and then digest in the booths. I actually don't know that part.
Okay. Weird. Me neither.
His brothers, okay, so that feast though.
Digestion booth, that thing.
Got it. Okay.
Digestion booth,
now
yes.
I do.
So that feast was going on. It's a big deal. His brothers therefore said to him, "Depart from here and go into Judea, that your disciples also may see your works which you do. For no one does anything in secret, and himself seeks to be known openly." For no one does anything in secret, and himself seeks to be known openly.
I mean, a lot of people do things.
Are they saying like if you want to get clout, you got to do stuff in public?
I think so, yeah.
I think that's what they might be saying.
You got to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
If you do these things, reveal yourself to the world. All right, I want to see what Eugene has to say about that real quick here. No one who intends to be publicly known does everything behind the scenes. If you're serious about what you're doing, come out in the open and show the world. Yeah, okay. All right, I think we nailed that.
Sure, yeah.
For even his brothers didn't believe him. Therefore, Jesus said to them, "My time has not yet come, but your time is always ready. The world can't hate you, but it hates me because I testify about it that its works are evil. You go up to the feast. I am not yet going up to this feast because my time is not yet fulfilled."
Oh,
what does that mean?
Party
this
pooper.
Is a whole new part of the plot. I think he's just saying like, I'll get killed if I go there.
Yeah.
I'm not ready for that yet.
He's like, oh, I see. My time is not yet fulfilled. Like, I'm not ready to die, or the end of my life has not come yet.
I mean, that's how I'm interpreting it here.
I think he just didn't want to go to the party and he was trying to find an excuse.
Yeah, okay, maybe.
I see. That's its excuse.
He just wasn't feeling it.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, the booths are always uncomfortable and wet. I don't really...
Ew.
Okay.
Wet. Good it is.
Maybe it's raining
Well, because
outside.
they're like out on the fields and the ground. Yeah, it's like if the ground is damp in the morning.
Sure.
I feel like it must rain here in New York as much as it does in Seattle. It probably doesn't. I know that like it doesn't, but it feels like it rains so much here. It's not every day though. Like it.
We should find some numbers, back that up.
Yeah, I know. It's just, God, it rained again today. And I'm like, do you ever stop? But
I think you've just been spoiled living in Los Angeles for so many years. now.
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It was a novelty there.
Like most places other than Los Angeles have weather.
I guess you're right. Like I'm just not used to it because I also am from Tucson, which isn't, it's either cold,
Also doesn't have weather.
hot,
Yeah.
or freaking boiling, and that's it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And then 1 month raining constantly.
That's the monsoons. Yeah. It's more than a month, but
Yeah.
still. But that's kind of pleasant.
Okay.
Okay.
Having said these things to them, he stayed in Galilee. But when his brothers had gone up to the feast, then he also went up, not publicly, but as it were, in secret.
Oh, he loves being secret.
The Jews therefore sought him at the feast and said, "Where is he?" There was much murmuring among the multitudes concerning him. Some said, "He's a good man." Others said, "Not so, but he leads the multitude astray." Yet no one spoke openly of him for fear of the Jews. But when it was now the midst of the feast, Jesus went up into the temple and taught. It's a little surprise, a little pop-up teaching, a happening, if you will.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
A little pop-up synagogue, pop-up
Yeah.
lecture.
The Jews therefore marveled, saying, "How does this man know letters, never having been educated?"
Wait, like, how does he know how to read?
Yeah, like how does he know
I
the
suppose so.
scriptures?
Or how does he
Yeah.
know letters? Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Is it still called the scriptures?
Now, I'm curious if they know this is Jesus or not.
It seems like they
you
know.
Well, they just said this man. I don't know.
I
always-
see. Yeah. I don't know. That's a good question.
This was always taught to me to just point out, like, look, Jesus is smart and learned to read
Seriously?
all on his own,
I bet.
even though he wasn't raised to be a priest or something.
Maybe he was probably born knowing how to read.
Exactly. I feel like it got downloaded
that
into
makes
him like
sense.
He was
Neo.
a powerful baby.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, he knows how to be a carpenter and he knows kung fu and how to read like Neo.
All the skills Neo had, yes.
Yes, correct.
Carpenter, kung fu, reading. Jesus therefore answered them, "My teaching is not mine, but his who sent me.
Mm.
If anyone desires to do his will, he will know about the teaching, whether it is from God or if I am speaking from myself. He who speaks from himself seeks his own glory, but he who seeks the glory of him who sent him, the same is true, and no unrighteousness is in him. Didn't Moses give you the law, and yet none of you keep the laws? Why do you seek to kill me?"
Rough.
The multitude answered, "You have a demon. Who seeks to kill you?"
Whoa.
They're like, "You're crazy, dude. What are you talking about?" Jesus answered them, "I did one work, and you all marvel because of it. Moses has given you circumcision.
Oh,
Not that it is of Moses, but of the fathers.
Boy.
And on the Sabbath, you circumcise a boy."
and that's a marvel there.
Yeah. "And on the Sabbath, you circumcise a boy. If a boy receives circumcision on the Sabbath, that the law of Moses may not be broken, are you angry with me because I made a man every bit whole on the Sabbath? Don't judge according to appearance, but judge righteous judgment." Don't know what judge righteous judgment would mean in practice here.
I also don't know what point is he making. Is it the same whole thing of like you'll do stuff on the Sabbath if it's really important, like circumcising a child?
Yeah, I think that's what he's saying. Like, why do you differentiate
Mhm.
between certain types of...
Really?
Well, because like that's a thing you got
But
to
that's
do.
a big work, right? That's a very difficult, and you have
It's
to be
definitely
precise.
work. No one can argue that it's leisure.
It is
Or else
they
not
ask
leisure
questions.
at all.
I was not aware that this was an exception to the Sabbath and not working on the Sabbath until I read this.
Yeah. Goodness. Okay.
Yeah. So I just wanted to check if Eugene has anything interesting to say. I like that Jesus clarifies, like, Moses gave you this whole circumcision custom. I mean, it wasn't really him, it was his ancestors, but he's just like the famous one that popularized it.
Right.
So
yes.
Interesting.
like, I like that he makes that clarification there.
Yeah.
Right. So they're just saying like, oh, I see. So according to Eugene, he says that whole thing about like, you'll circumcise on the Sabbath in order to observe the law.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you upset with me? Because I made a man's whole body well on the Sabbath. So I think he's referencing back to when he healed that guy and told him to get up and carry his mat. And then
Sure.
they came after him.
Makes sense.
At least according to Eugene's translation, he's referencing that.
Okay.
At least it sounds like that to me.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
take that as you will.
Yeah.
Therefore, some of them of Jerusalem said, "Isn't this he whom they seek to kill? Behold, he speaks openly, and they say nothing to him. Can it be that the rulers indeed know that this is truly the Christ? However, we know where this man comes from, but when the Christ comes, no one will know where he comes from."
What?
Okay.
Yeah. Likely.
Yeah. So they were taught we wouldn't know where he would come from, but like
Oh.
we know this guy's from
Joseph
Bethlehem,
and Mary?
so
Yeah.
or Galilee or
Mhm,
whatever.
mhm.
Yeah. So
Interesting. Huh.
Jesus, therefore, he overheard this like he always does. Jesus had great hearing, I've learned.
Yeah, well, that's probably another thing that God gave him. Just unbelievable hearing.
Yeah. All the superpowers.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Totally.
Sense. Yeah. Jesus, therefore, cried out in the temple, teaching and saying, "You both know me and know where I am from. I have not come of myself, but he who sent me is true, whom you don't know. I know him because I am from him and he sent me."
Cool.
He's like, he just talks a lot in this book. He just opens
does
his
talk a
mouth and
lot.
just says
Way
words
more.
He loves talking.
in this book.
Yeah. They thought, therefore, to take him, but no one laid a hand on him because his hour had not yet come.
Interesting.
But of the multitude, many believed in him. They said, "When the Christ comes, he won't do more signs than those which this man has done, will he?"
No.
The Pharisees heard the multitude murmuring these things concerning him, and the chief priests and the Pharisees sent officers to arrest him.
Already?
Yeah, they're on it for sure.
Yeah. Then Jesus said, "I will be with you a little while longer. Then I go to him who sent me. You will seek me and won't find me. And where I am, you can't come."
Hmm.
And he threw down a smoke bomb. And when the smoke cleared, he was gone.
He was David Copperfield.
Wow.
The Jews therefore said among themselves, "Where will this man go that we won't find him? Will he go to the dispersion among the Greeks and teach the Greeks? What is this word that he says? You will seek me and won't find me. And where I am, you can't come." Okay, the end of that story.
Okay.
So
all right.
if you want to digest that, do it now.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's kind of saying he's going to maybe go into an alternate dimension
Cool.
or
Yeah.
something like that,
Yeah,
which
pretty
I guess is kind of what we're setting up.
Yeah.
He's going to blast off into heaven.
In heaven.
Now, on the last and greatest day of the feast, Jesus stood and cried out, "If anyone is thirsty, let him come to me and drink.
That's kind of awkward.
He who believes in me," yeah, "he who believes in me, as the scripture has said, from within him will flow rivers of living water." Sounds sort of horrifying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. I'm like, what is he even
just, like,
saying?
water's going to start pouring out of you.
He's just
Yeah.
been much more wild in this book of
He
John.
is.
Yeah, really.
He really is.
Yeah.
But he said this about the Spirit, which those believing in him were to receive. For the Holy Spirit was not yet given because Jesus wasn't yet glorified. This is our narrator coming in to kind of
Help us
clarify
out.
something and not helping very
Oh,
much at
man.
all.
Yeah.
So the narrator comes in and is like, he's talking about the Spirit, but they couldn't get it yet because he wasn't glorified yet. I don't really
Sure,
know what
sure.
we're trying to say here. Many of the multitude, therefore, when they heard these words, said, "This is truly the prophet." He makes as little sense as all the other prophets. Okay, sorry. "This is truly the prophet." Others said, this is the Christ. But some said, what?
What?
Does the Christ come out of Galilee? Hasn't the scripture said that the Christ comes from the seed of David and
He
from
did.
Bethlehem, the village where David was?
Oh, yeah.
Wait,
I guess he technically did. Or maybe we retconned it so that he did. But either way, he did.
Awkward.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, because they were from Galilee, but then ended up birthing him in the manger in Bethlehem.
Yes.
Wait a minute, though. Yes, your parents are from a place, but when you get, if you were born in the U.S., you get a U.S. passport. So isn't he therefore from Bethlehem? Doesn't he get a Bethlehem passport because he was born there?
I mean, I like to think he has sort of a dual citizenship
Sure.
situation.
That's fine.
I like to think I have a dual citizenship situation going on too.
With where?
In that I was born in Wisconsin, so I can kind of claim some like Midwest down home pride.
You want that?
But then I'm like a fourth generation Seattleite because my mom and her parents and their parents all lived here.
Mm.
So depending who I'm talking to, I can kind of claim some localness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sort of like
that's
Jesus.
cool.
Basically,
Kinda-
I'm
kinda
Jesus.
like
That's kind of what I'm saying.
You're kind of
Yeah.
like Jesus in that regard.
Kind of like Jesus.
Yeah,
in
born
that one,
straight into a manger.
in that one way. Yes.
Is that what he was saying? Okay.
So there arose a division in the multitude because of him. Some of them would have arrested him, but no one laid hands on him. The officers, therefore, came to the chief priests and Pharisees, and they said to them, "Why didn't you bring him?" The officers answered, "No man ever spoke like this man."
Mm.
Whoa.
The Pharisees therefore answered them, "You aren't also led astray, are you? Have any of the rulers believed in him or of the Pharisees? But this multitude that doesn't know the law is accursed." Nicodemus, he who came to him by night, being one of them. Okay, Nicodemus snuck in the night. Nicodemus said to them, "Does our law judge a man unless it first hears from him personally and knows what he does?" They answered him, "Are you also from Galilee? Search and see that no prophet has arisen out of Galilee."
Whoa.
Everyone went to his own house.
What? I
Okay.
And that's it?
That's it. That's the end of the chapter.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Can I say something that maybe if we feel like this needs to be cut out, then that's fine.
Okay, goodness.
Oh, goodness. That's
Yeah.
a good
Goodness
way
gracious.
to start out. Okay.
In reading all of these things with the word Jew in it,
Hmm.
I can understand in a horrified way kind of where some anti-Semitic rhetoric comes from by reading this.
Oh, sure.
And
totally.
it's really a little disturbing, quite frankly, because again, the other three did not have that. I know that they used a different term, but it's just like,
Yeah.
it almost is, I'm like, this isn't okay. I don't know. It's just, it pisses me off because I know that a lot of people out there are so tied to this book and to the things that are being said in it, that it feels almost like it gives those people a pass to be like, well, look at what the Bible says. The Bible says that it's okay to hate and it's okay to feel this way about this group of people. And it's really shitty. It really is.
I mean, yeah, historically, you're on the money that, yes,
Yeah.
this text has been weaponized in that particular way to justify a
100%.
lot of anti-Semitism. And
Yeah.
it is a weird thing of where I do feel like the Book of John has been much more adamant about, like, it was the Jews.
Yes.
They were the ones who did all this. It was them all along.
Exactly. And just and I'm like almost a little nervous to get to the crucifixion point because I feel like that's going to be hyped up even more. And that the death of Jesus is going to be much more visceral and intense and really, I don't know, more like how I anticipated that it would be this whole time. I feel like it is going to happen maybe in this book.
Interesting.
And then that's going to fuel the fire that I'm speaking of even more. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just,
we'll find out when we get there.
the more that I read this book, the more that I have that feeling of, holy shit, like this is where that comes from. This is
Sure,
where this
totally.
anti-Semitic rhetoric is coming from. It's right here. It's written in this book. And I know how many people out there are so adamant about we have to go by what this book says. And it's just justifying really bad behavior. And it doesn't make me feel good at all. I think it's...
this would be a good sermon for you to write.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, God, my sermons are all going to be about we need to take something else out of this, or we need to, it's like a cautionary tale or something.
What other things should we disregard?
Yeah. Obviously all the stuff about women and I think I sent this to Jason Dedeker, and I'll put it maybe hopefully in the Discord and in the Facebook group, but I went to a Hobby Lobby when I was in Tucson recently with my mom, and there were a bunch of books there about Jesus. Yeah. I don't usually find myself in a Hobby Lobby, but unfortunately I did. And there were so many books in a Hobby Lobby about Jesus. And one of them was The Words of Jesus for Women. And I was like, I'm sorry, my mother and I both were like, what does Jesus have to say to women? Or rather, what does the Bible have to say to women at all? Because most of it is not for women. It's against women for men.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm done with my soapbox today, but...
No. I love it. I love that soapbox.
No, that's great. I love it. Yeah.
Yikes. Yeah, Hobby Lobby is very problematic. Yes.
All right. Rocking on in the chat was it sounds like you almost know what you're talking about. And you do. That's the thing, right? That's my favorite part about this show so far is
thanks, Rocking On. Thank you for yet another backhanded compliment. I appreciate it. No, it's fine. I don't know. Yes, this has been a really great education reading this book for a variety of reasons. But I do think that from that standpoint, just having a broader understanding of why it is that our society or multiple societies tend to be the way that they are in reading this book and in understanding how our culture is. It's really unfortunate, but it also makes me realize too, this book was probably written way after the fact. It wasn't written at the same time that the other three were, because those have coherence, I guess, they are more cohesive. And this one is way different.
I felt like the other three Gospels all felt like they were written from someone with a Jewish point of view. And this one very much feels like someone who's writing as someone who does not at all identify as a Jew. Where I got the impression from the others, it's more about these groups that are kind of in charge and are all hoity-toity and are really enforcing laws and have kind of lost their way. These are the ones we're mad at. Yeah. Not the Jews, but just these parts of the Jews, and we're trying to bring it all back. Sure. Whereas John takes this very different approach. And
he lumps everyone together with this one word.
Yeah.
And that in essence to me is the issue. Because again, it's not, it's saying that it's stereotyping, I guess, an entire group of people, which is not okay. So,
Well, we're going to take a moment for everyone to just digest
all that.
Digest what Emily's sharing here. I love it. I love how far we have come in the last however long it's been, 5 years, 6 years, however
5
long
years,
it's been.
4 years. No,
5.5,
6 years,
something like that. I'm loving it. And thank you all for being here. And we would love it for you to spread the word. Tell your friends about this. If you want to come check out the live shows where you get to see all of the stuff that gets cut out of the actual show when we make mistakes and stumble over ourselves and all sorts of things like that, you can come check us out at drunkbiblestudy.com/live, or you can just follow us directly on Twitch at Drunk Bible Study. And we have a great time here. We'd love for you to join us. And then, of course, if you just want to listen to the podcast in your podcast machine, you can do that and tell your friends, have a great party with everybody. And if you would like to go the extra mile and help support this show, because you'll notice we don't do any advertising on this show. If you could support us on Patreon, that would go so far toward helping this show. That's at patreon.com/drunkbiblestudy. And as a thank you for being a parishioner there, we have things like personal toasts on the show, early releases of episodes, Emily's drink recipes once we buy her this cocktail set again, and of course, our thanks and appreciation.
And we're back. Alrighty, everyone. It's time for chapter 8. But Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. I love that. That sounds really tasty. I want some olives. Now, very early in the morning, he came again into the temple, and all the people came to him. He sat down and taught them. The scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman taken in adultery. Taken in adultery, meaning she was an adulterer?
Yes, the
It's an
way that
interesting way of putting it.
I was taught this story was that like she was caught in the act of adultery.
Oh, okay.
I think, like someone caught them doing it.
Yeah.
But this is a sign of how things have changed over time. Instead of stabbing her and the man
Oh, yeah.
through with a spear through both of them like we
God.
did before,
Lord.
this time we just arrested her.
Got it. Having set her into the midst, they told him, "Teacher, we found this woman in adultery in the very act." I'm sorry, how did they do that? What was happening there? Were they just
Somebody walked in on it.
barging into people's houses?
Yeah, I guess so.
Somebody found out.
Okay.
yeah.
Now, in our law, Moses commanded us to stone such. What then do you say about her? They said this, testing him, that they might have something to accuse him of. But Jesus stooped down and wrote on the ground with his finger. But when they continued asking him, he looked up and said to them, "He who is without sin among you, let him throw the first stone at her." I know that one.
Yes, that's a popular
Yeah,
one.
I was gonna ask.
Yes.
Gonna ask if you knew that line. Yeah.
Again, he stooped down and with his finger wrote on the ground. They, when they heard it, being convicted by their conscience, went out one by one, beginning from the oldest even to the last. Like the oldest man went out first and then the youngest was the last one?
I think just that it was all of them.
Okay.
That they all left. Is that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, beginning with the oldest. Okay, beginning with the oldest, meaning they've had the most lifetime to do sins. And so we're the
Oh.
quickest to be like, yeah, I can't
You're
say
like,
that.
I see. Okay, they're leaving because they're basically saying, yes, correct, sir, you're right. All of us
Yeah, you got us.
All of us
Zinged us.
have
So
committed bad things.
this story is super famous and one of my favorites
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I never remembered this detail of him writing in the dirt with his finger.
Yeah, what's that about?
Yeah, I remember that. Because it was also weird that they never say what he was writing. You know?
Writing. Sorry, both of us can
Writing there
speak.
in the dirt
Yes.
with his finger.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, do we show that in the Drunk Bible Study version after he writes in the dirt? Do we zoom in on it and show?
Was it a penis?
Oh, that would be
Was
We're
cool.
it
going to go
hot
really,
leaf?
really asinine with it.
The number
Yeah,
42.
Any of those could be good.
Oh, yeah. That'd be
Ooh,
good.
That'd be fun.
good.
I like
yeah.
that.
That would be
I
really
like
funny.
that.
Yeah.
I just love it though that they ask him this question and in response he just crouches down and starts drawing in the dirt. And they're like,
They're like, did you hear us?
Excuse me?
We're going to ask you again. Hello?
yeah.
Mhm.
I think he maybe was buying himself time to come up with a really good comeback, and it was worth it because he
It
did.
was a good
Yes.
comeback.
He crushed this one. This is one of his better comebacks, I think.
It's interesting, though, because I guess the point is he's saying that everyone has sinned. But I do wonder, based on some of the teachings of like Moses, for example, there are a bunch of sins that are really, really bad? And is it implying that those sins are just as bad as like the small sins that we may commit on a daily or weekly basis?
Yeah, that's yet another tricky conversation, right? Where I think there's multiple ways to look at it.
Many.
Yes, there is
Yeah.
the perspective of, well, we're all hypocrites, right? Like we've all done bad things. And so, it's silly to put it on this hierarchy and to pretend that we're better than somebody else. But then also the flip side of that is like, well, we're not going to equate like lying to your mom when you're 7 with committing flat out murder, right? Like that's not helpful and that's kind of silly. So yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like in this particular situation, weirdly, Jesus was like, whatever, man, it's cool.
Yeah.
Even though he's already done this whole spiel about how if you even lust after a woman, you've committed adultery in your heart. If a woman gets remarried, she's committing adultery, where I don't know if we've gotten any of that in this book.
Not in this
Not
book.
in this
though.
one,
Yeah,
I
you're
was gonna
right.
say.
Not this Jesus. Huh.
It's interesting.
Huh.
This Jesus has almost different teachings or different things that John felt were more important to say than previous teachings.
It does seem that way.
I
Yeah.
want to know,
Yeah.
and of course we can't because we don't know these people and we can't ask them ourselves, but I want to know like why they chose the stories that they chose. Because one might think that like he did all of these things in all 4 books, but for whatever reason, each different author chose each different story for their book specifically, and like what made that story so important to them as an individual writer.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's usually how it's taught in Christian churches, is that it's like, yeah, they each told parts of the story, but all the things happened.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, allegedly.
But it is weird when it is just like, he seems like such a different dude in this story than he has in the others.
Yeah, indeed.
But yeah, boy. I mean, I don't want us to get too caught up in a tangent about the whole like, are all sins equal thing? But I do feel like we've seen some of it where when we talked back in the Old Testament about the different like penalties for sins in terms of like how much of an offering you need to give to kind of become clean again, and that they varied some. And so in that way, it feels like they're not all equal, right? And then it feels like every time Jesus talks about things, whether it's, you know, who has not sinned, cast the first stone, or it's the whole, if you've lusted after a woman in your heart, then you've committed adultery too. He's very much on the like, any sin is sin, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then later down the line, the Catholics come up with varying levels of sins.
Oh,
and the 7 deadly sins and that kind
the
of
cardinal
stuff.
sins and
Right.
Yeah.
Which, so it's like all different camps have come down very different on this.
The 7
Yeah.
deadly sins is a Catholic thing then.
Yeah.
is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not in the Bible as far as I know.
No, yeah, I haven't seen that either. I didn't realize that they decided to do that. The Catholics decided to create these 7 deadly sins. And what does that even mean, like deadly sins? Like you're going to be struck down and die if you commit one? In the movie, you are.
None of us being Catholic, I don't think we know enough
Yeah, I don't either.
to answer that question.
None of us having ever
But
committed any of the 7 deadly sins.
Well,
we
that's
wouldn't know.
definitely
That
also
too,
not
yeah.
true. I mean, I'm assuming. I don't know. Gluttony, I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah. All right.
sure.
Jesus was left alone with the woman where she was, in the middle. Jesus, standing up, saw her and said, "Woman, where are your accusers? Did no one condemn you?" She said, "No one, Lord." Jesus said, "Neither do I condemn you. Go your way. From now on, sin no more." Interesting. Well, at least he's like very
Does
forgiving.
he at least have the note where he's like, just don't do it again?
Yeah.
Can we just promise?
Yeah.
Pinky swear?
Again, therefore, Jesus spoke to them, saying, "I am the light of the world." Yeah.
Whoa, I'm sorry. So you're starting a new chapter now, or a new like section.
Okay.
But I see a note written in the Message Bible
Okay.
right here at the end of verse 11,
Yeah.
where it says, "Note that from the last verse of the previous chapter up to here, this part is not found in the earliest handwritten copies of John."
Really?
Ooh.
That this story specifically, I guess, according to Eugene,
This one's a little retcon.
maybe, or just happened to be in that copy of the earliest one we found.
Huh.
You know, since we don't know if we have the orig.
That's awkward
We
because
probably don't.
this is kind of like one of the better things in John so far. Awkward.
Yeah.
More redeeming qualities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Right.
whatever.
Interesting. I'd never heard that before. Wow.
Yeah, fascinating. Again, therefore, Jesus spoke to them, saying, "I am the light of the world. He who follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." The Pharisees therefore said to him, "You testify about yourself. Your testimony is not valid." Jesus answered them, "Even if I testify about myself, my testimony is true, for I know where I came from and where I am going, but you don't know where I came from or where I am going."
Can't catch me.
Wow.
It feels like a weak argument. He
It
was so
does.
badass a second ago, and now this is a bit weak.
Yeah, they had to like insert some badassery after the fact. I guess.
Okay, maybe.
You judge according to the flesh. I judge no one. Even if I do judge, my judgment is true, for I am not alone, but I am with the Father who sent me. It's also written in your law that the testimony of two people is valid. I am one who testifies about myself, and the Father who sent me testifies about me.
Nice.
They said therefore to him.
Okay, I like that.
So like he's the only one who testifies about me?
No, he's saying like if two people testify about me, then it's true. I testify about me, and so does God. So,
Right, so I count as one of those two.
So that's two, yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
boy.
They said therefore to him, where is your father? Jesus answered, you know neither me nor my Father. If you knew me, you would know my Father also. Jesus spoke these words in the treasury as he taught in the temple. Yet no one arrested him because his hour had not yet come. I wanted to speak on that momentarily as well.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming that Jesus kind of has the sight, as it were, like he's able to see into the future and know when his hour is going to come. And clearly he's saying like that. So why is he afraid of people coming to him and killing him? Because like it's not going to happen yet. He keeps saying like my hour has not come. So why doesn't he just like live large?
Well, that was the narrator telling us that just now.
Yeah, I'm just saying, why doesn't he just do whatever he wants? Why is everything...
What would Jesus living large look like to you?
I don't know. I mean, not keeping everything secret and telling everyone as much as he possibly can.
Well, I would say though, in this book, he is constantly telling people, I'm the Son of God, and also you're all bad and you should listen to me, and like you should know me. Whereas in all the other Gospels, at least until later, he's a bit more secretive about it.
That's true.
He keeps being like, don't tell anyone about this.
Yeah. That's
so,
true.
Yeah, it is also a very different characterization of, like, right from the start in this book, he's been throwing that in people's faces. Of like, I'm from him who sent me. You should believe in me. I'm the way to everlasting life, which he never claimed any of that in the other ones.
Yeah, it's interesting. Jesus said, therefore, again to them, I am going away, and you will seek me, and you will die in your sins. Where I go, you can't come. Jeez. The Jews therefore said, will he kill himself that he says, where I am going, you can't come? He said to them, you are from beneath, I am from above. You are of this world, I am not of this world. I said therefore to you that you will die in your sins, for unless you believe that I am he, you will die in your sins. Okay.
Definitely a much more alienating Jesus.
Yeah, for sure.
This time around. Much more like, we are not the same.
And again,
right,
providing this commentary almost for people, for instance, who say, okay, if you don't believe in this, then you're going to go to hell.
Yes.
Like it says it right there, essentially.
Yeah.
So, people like me, for instance, which I mean is clear that a lot of people think that, but still. Anyways, they said therefore to him, who are you? Jesus said to them, just what I have been saying to you from the beginning. I have many things to speak and to judge concerning you. However, he who sent me is true, and the things which I heard from him, these I say to the world. They didn't understand that he spoke to them about the Father. Jesus therefore said to them, when you have lifted up the Son of Man, then you will know that I am he, and I do nothing of myself, but as my Father taught me. I say these things. He who sent me is with me. The Father hasn't left me alone, for I always do the things that are pleasing to him.
Gosh.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to pick up this football and run with it.
Are.
Starting from verse 30. Yes, Jace?
Oh, okay. I have a section heading that starts at 31.
Oh, okay. Then let me finish this.
All right.
As he spoke these things, many believed in him. The end. Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. So now, I have a new section heading.
What is it called?
Multiple translations here. Eugene now says, if the Son sets you free, whereas the New International Version says, dispute over whose children Jesus' opponents are.
Whose
very
children
different.
Jesus' opponents are? Yeah, that's
what does that mean?
Vibe.
Yeah.
Whose children?
I guess we're going to find out.
We'll find out.
Okay.
Yeah.
31. Jesus therefore said to those Jews who had believed him, If you remain in my word, then you are truly my disciples. You will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. They answered him, We are Abraham's seed and have never been in bondage to anyone. How do you say you will be made free? Jesus answered them, Most assuredly I tell you, everyone who commits sin is the bondservant of sin. A bondservant doesn't live in the house forever. A son remains forever. If therefore the Son makes you free, you'll be free indeed. I know that you are Abraham's seed, yet you seek to kill me because my word finds no place in you. I say the things which I have seen with my father, and you also do the things which you have seen with your father.
What? So what?
They answered him,
I don't know.
Our father is Abraham.
Okay.
And Abraham had many sons.
He did have many sons. That's true.
And
many
I'm one of them.
sons? Oh, and so are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus said to them, If you were Abraham's children, you would do the works of Abraham. But now you seek to kill me, a man who has told you the truth, which I heard from God. Abraham didn't do this.
Wow.
You do the works of your father.
Abraham
said to
never
him-
killed me. So why are you trying to kill me? I like that.
I'm pretty sure they were born in completely different times, but whatever. Weird.
They said to him, We were not born of sexual immorality. We have one Father, God.
What?
Therefore, Jesus said to them, If God were your father, you would love me, for I came out and have come from God. For I haven't come of myself, but he sent me. Why don't you understand my speech? Because you can't hear my word. You are of your father, the devil.
Jeez.
Ugh.
Us.
And you want to do the
Jesus.
desires of your father.
Gosh. Jesus.
was-
yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus, what are
gosh,
you
and
saying?
Jesus.
Jesus.
He was a murderer from the beginning and doesn't stand in the truth because there is no truth in him. When he speaks a lie, he speaks on his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. But because I tell the truth, you don't believe me. Which of you convicts me of sin? If I tell the truth, why do you not believe me? He who is of God hears the words of God. For this cause you don't hear, because you are not of God.
Well, okay, can I just hit you with a quick thing from Eugene
Woof.
here that I enjoyed? Why can't you understand one word I say? Here's why. You can't handle it. You're from your father, the devil, and all you want to do is please him. He was a killer from the very start. He couldn't stand the truth because there wasn't a shred of truth in him. When the liar speaks, he makes it up out of his lying nature and fills the world with lies.
What?
Now I arrive on the scene, tell you the plain truth, and you refuse to have a thing to do with me.
I just
I just love Eugene trying to relate to the kids.
Trying to make it
I arrive
rap
on the
battle.
scene
not
and
doing a great job.
tell you the plain
but
truth.
Nice try, Eugene. I just
Yeah.
okay, we went from 0 to frickin' 3,000 in a moment there.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah, we
equating
really did.
equating whomever that you believe in or not to the devil is really a lot.
Mhm.
I know what this book thinks of the devil. Yikes.
Yeah. Yeah, basically we just saw that the precedent for online discussions turning into
Yes.
calling each other Nazis
Yes.
has been around since biblical times.
You know, I mean, really, I just the more that I read this book, and I wonder if I guess the New Testament is going to be like this for me. My experience of the New Testament is going to be, oh, now I understand. Now I understand why the world is the way that it is.
Quite possibly. Quite
Is
possibly.
that what this is going to be now? Because this is the first time in reading this entire book that I'm starting to understand a little bit more. I mean, not quite like we talked about this before, like, oh, there's all of that, anti-woman rhetoric and stuff. There it is. I can see that from this. But this is pretty insidious. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, Brady in the chat took the words right out of my mouth that once we get to the books that Paul wrote, that I think a lot of puzzle pieces are going to fall into place about modern Christian
Maybe
rhetoric.
I'm just going to need to shut up then, because I'm going to be like, yeah.
No, you can't shut up because Paul wants you to shut up because you're a woman.
Yeah, I know. And,
yeah.
ugh.
Yeah. Now, I just
Okay, yeah.
I just want to take a moment and rewind back to the quote that Emily said, because this should get cross-stitched on something. Basically, she said, now that I have read the Bible, I understand why the world is how it is.
Yeah.
And I love that that same quote could get interpreted very different ways.
Oh, yeah. You
based
could
on
buy
the
that on
person
a little
reading
plaque
it.
in a Hobby Lobby for
Well,
sure.
I'm
Right,
sure that
right.
it probably, by the way, Hobby Lobby was enormous. And had I scoured every inch of it, I may have found that plaque. And yet,
Right.
I did not mean it in a
And
good
then you could
way.
have put it up because it would have been true.
Yeah.
Right.
I
But
know.
it still means it's still true. You could have put it up. You should go back and
Maybe
look.
I'll cross stitch it and then put it up in pink, black, and gold, and I'll put it up somewhere in my house. But I'm not gonna. I don't mean it in a good way.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Okay. Rolling along. Then the Jews answered him, "Don't we say well that you are a Samaritan and have a demon?" Jesus answered, "I don't have a demon, but I honor my Father, and you dishonor me. But I don't seek my own glory. There is one who seeks and judges. Most assuredly, I tell you, if a person keeps my word, he will never see death." Then the Jews said to him, "Now we know that you have a demon. Abraham died and the prophets. And you say," yes?
It's just the classic. If someone says you have a demon and you deny it, that's
further
evidence
proof
that you have a demon.
It's further proof.
So
Yeah.
there's no winning that one.
"Abraham died and the prophets, and you say, if a man keeps my word, he will never taste of death. Are you greater than our father Abraham, who died? The
Abraham.
prophets died. Who do you make yourself out to be?" Jesus answered, "If I glorify myself, my glory is nothing. It is my Father who glorifies me, of whom you say that he is our God. You have not known him, but I know him. If I said I don't know him, I would be like you, a liar. But I know him and keep his word. Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day. He saw it and was glad." The Jews therefore said to him, "You are not yet 50 years old, and have you seen Abraham?"
He's like, I will never get to 50. And
Jesus said to them, "Most assuredly, I tell you, before Abraham came into existence, I am."
So
Therefore,
Whoa.
they took up
Whoa.
stones to throw at him, but Jesus was hidden. Poof, yeah, smoke bomb.
he did
Smoke
And
smoke
went
bomb
out of the
again.
temple, having gone through the midst of them, and so passed by.
Damn.
The end.
I don't know, man.
I have to say, Brady, again in the chat, really hit the nail on the head of saying that this guy is really unlikable now.
Yeah, I appreciate that
Pretty combative.
Zane in the chat earlier was like, so do we all have a crush on John? And then quickly realized, no, none of us have a crush on John. Or this version of Jesus. None of us have a crush on him.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, I mean, that thing that you all said, that most Christians would state that this is their favorite book, I would question that of them and be like, really? Can you please explain to me why?
Right.
And have you actually
sure?
read it? Or is that just what you've been taught to say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think the experience of reading it while someone tells you what you should be getting out of it is very different from reading it without that, you know? Because it's like, sure, yeah, maybe they have read it, right? Honestly, like if a random person off the street were to tell me they have read a whole book of the Bible and this was the book they said, actually, I'd believe them. I'd say, yeah, no, there's actually probably a good chance. It's really not that long.
Yeah.
It's got all the banger quotes in it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I
Banger
believe
stories.
you've read it. Yeah, I believe you've read it. Quite possibly either coming into it with like a very clear lens of what you think the story already is. And so you're looking for evidence to support that, or reading it in a Bible study or something where you're being guided along the way. I say, as we call our show, Bible study.
That's a loose term for what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is interesting is that like I have this or had this character of Jesus in my head. And again, it's this character that was created like a ransom note cut out of magazines, you know, where it's like, okay, we're going to read this story from Luke, but then we're going to go read this quote from Mark, but then we're going to read this thing that Jesus said from John, and then we're going to say, oh yeah, that was a very consistent character. And while, yeah, like there's some overlap between all these four Jesuses, it's still surprising to me that when we read it like this, that there is this, oh, he was very different here in this gospel versus that gospel versus this other gospel. And that was never apparent to me because you're never reading books straight through.
Yeah.
At least the church that I grew up in, it's all curated for you.
Yeah, but again, like there's more cohesion, I think, between the first three.
Interesting.
At least it's not the same kind of stuff that's happening here. I kind of could see the thread between the three Jesus that were happening.
Yeah, they agreed
first
enough. They seem like a similar
Gospels.
character.
Yeah.
I agree.
But now it's like this is the whole different, very angry guy. He's really upset.
More combative, more
really combative.
contrarian, more
Yeah.
And way more
alienating.
claiming to be God, which he never
Yes.
did before.
That's true. That's really interesting.
Yes.
To me, that's what I always find so striking about John, is just how all of the stuff about Jesus stating that he is God or that he, like his flesh and blood gives eternal life is pretty much all John.
Yeah.
Like he talked before about, I feed with water that never runs out, or like he used similar metaphors in the other books, but they always felt more like metaphors.
Yeah.
And in John, they don't feel like metaphors anymore. Like everything is so clearly stated over and over again.
He's actually saying, this is reality. This is what I am. I am. And then also my flesh and blood, come drink of me, come eat of me, all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, it's really intense, and I'm I'm more like worked up about it than I expected to be, which I don't think is a bad thing.
I'm surprised.
It's good.
I like it.
Yeah, no, I know.
Feel your anger.
Yeah.
It is good. Yes.
Feel the hatred.
So there we go. I'm going down my dark side, my dark Bible side. No, I mean, I think it's
more like dark Bible study, dark
Yeah.
side Bible study.
I think
That's
it's
good. Yeah.
I maybe would have never said this before and believed it, but I think it's important work what we're doing here. Just at least in asking these questions, at least in having a moment of, let's read this thing every single week for this many years and do a full kind of, on the spot interpretation of what it is that's going on. Like that's why we're doing this, and it's great. And in this moment, after all of this time, I'm like, whoa, it actually is pretty intense. And it's I think from an existential level, like really answering and providing discussion for a lot of like the questions that we have in general, like on this earth.
I mean, it is very important that we will be the only people in the history of the Bible who's ever read the entire Bible.
Definitely.
Cover to
That is
cover.
important. Yeah.
It's like the only people. I mean, once we're getting close, we're gonna have to call in Guinness.
Us and the listeners.
Yeah.
We should have someone from Guinness be at the final one.
Ooh, but it could be Guinness and Guinness, like Guinness Brewery and Guinness Book of World Records could come together.
Collab.
It could do a collab
to validate that we're the first ever people to have read the whole Bible.
Yeah, I love that for us. Love that. Okay, I know that this is run long because of all of my pontificating, but shall I read us out?
Do it.
Just so you know, just a very quick bit of trivia. That is the same Guinness, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah, the managing director of the Guinness breweries.
Okay.
Created.
That's a great trivia question if I ever get it on trivia night. Thank you for joining us for Bible study today. If you want to join the audience or live stream shows, follow us on Twitch at Drunk Bible Study or go to drunkbiblestudy.com/live. If you want to join the audience or live stream shows, go to drunkbiblestudy.com/live. If you want even more Drunk Bible Study, including early releases, cocktail recipes, personal toasts on the show, and more, become one of our patrons at patreon.com/drunkbiblestudy. If you enjoy the show, take a moment to subscribe and write us a nice review on iTunes, letting other people know what you like about it. You can also join fellow listeners in the Drunk Bible Study Fans and Fellowship Facebook group or on our Discord server at discord.drunkbiblestudy.com. Send us an email to info@drunkbiblestudy.com if you want. Go for it. Drunk Bible Study is created and produced by Chase Lindgren, Dedeker Winston, and me, Emily Matlack. Our theme song is Book Club by Josh and Anand from their album Home of the. For more information, visit us at drunkbiblestudy.com.